All right, welcome back to Titans Talk here on a Monday night. Titans a 16-15 winner yesterday in Detroit, 1-1 on the year now. They are back home Sunday against the Oakland Raiders, a noon kickoff. That'll be early for the guys from the Bay. Over at Nissan Stadium, you can catch it on the mothership, NewsChannel 5 at noon on Sunday. Titans kind of roughed up the Raiders in the preseason. They hope that carries over. Preseason games oftentimes don't mean a lot, but that was the more important third game where teams actually do some game planning. I imagine it was relatively vanilla this time, knowing they had to play each other in a month. But still, maybe some positives the Titans can take out of that to carry over and try to get a second straight win against the Raiders team that lost yesterday against the Falcons. Phone lines are open. 737-7767 is the number. We want to hear from you guys tonight. What did you learn from the Titans yesterday in Detroit? Do you feel that they are a new team? The way they came back and won that game showed that heart and resiliency to get the job done. We go to the phones, and John is first up tonight here on Titans Talk.
Yes, sir. It's a comment about that team. It's a total different team.
And why do you think that?
Well, defense, hey, God, somebody, they got to deal with that defense. Hey, that defense is bad. I think the best defense I've seen this year. And number two, our offense is clicking. I mean, this ain't but the second game. But it's a total different team that I've seen over the years. And, hey, I didn't give up on them yesterday. I sat right here and I watched every play. But Cox sealed the game yesterday. And our quarterback, he was on target. You know that, and I know that. Everyone who watched the game knows that. He was good, but I hang up and see what you think about it. And I thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, John, thank you for the call. I think what you saw yesterday is a Titans team that did some good things. They also struggled at times for three quarters. I think the frustrations were the fact that one of the things that Mike Mularkey really sort of drives home with this team is he wants disciplined football. He doesn't want penalties. And yesterday you saw 12 penalties for 100 yards or something like that. That can't happen. They got fortunate in the fact that the Lions had 17 penalties for well over 100 yards. So in essence, it kind of washed itself out. Titans maybe even got a little bit of the better end of that. There were some mistakes early on. But again, that defense that you talked about, and I agree, they've been as good as any defense in the NFL through 2 weeks. They kept them in the game yesterday as the offense was struggling to find a rhythm. But then when the offense did find the rhythm, they were phenomenal. And in the fourth quarter, they were hard to stop. And what you saw from Marcus Mariota in that fourth quarter was a quarterback that believed in exactly what he was doing. When the check down was there, he went to it. When he had to take a shot, fourth down play, the first down play to Murray when he had a good matchup there, he took the shot, and he was accurate, and he got the job done. And that's the other thing is you can play good football. You can play solid, fundamental, mistake-free football. But sometimes at the end of the game, you have to raise that level. You have to play winning football at that point. You have to make a play. And yesterday there were a bunch of guys, from Mariota to Johnson to Cox to Arakpo, several guys, both sides of the football, that made winning plays for them to be able to win that game. Back to the phones and Bob. Bob, hello.
Oh, yeah, that was a good game. I'm saying, Titans, they've got the skills. They can do it. But it takes luck, too, like that the turnover that changed in the last quarter there. I watched, and I don't want to jinx them or anything, but they need that every game. Maybe they need a special team for turnovers to check, or a computer or something that Mahoney can check with, see what kind of footing distance they need and stuff. All right, I'll let you think about that.
All right. I think ultimately every week in the NFL, it comes down to a play. It comes down to a moment in a game, and can you do it? And what happened in Week 1, the Titans largely in Week 1 were the better team against the Vikings. We talked about this a lot last week. There were 65 plays in the game against the Vikings. The Titans were probably better on 60 of them. But on 5 plays, there were mistakes, there were turnovers, whatever, that the Vikings took advantage of. And that won them the football game. Titans played a good football game in large parts in Week 1, but critical mistakes cost them the shot to win a game. Yesterday, at times, it wasn't a great football game. But when it mattered, they made the play. It is that fine of a line every week. Think about this. The punt right before the Titans took the ball back on that game-winning drive, Mark Mariani fumbled it. It went out of bounds, and the Titans retained possession. If the Lions somehow fall on that ball, the game's probably over. They would already be in field goal range at that point. Best thing you maybe hope for is a last-ditch drive for a touchdown, and you need the 2-point conversion just to get into overtime at that point. But it goes out of bounds. Titans get the ball. They get to start that drive. You have several third downs there. You got to convert them all. You get down there 4th down. You got to make that play. You get a guy, make that play. And then the defense has to come up and make a play. There were a lot of things just in the final several minutes there that had to go right for the Titans to win this game. They made the plays, and that's what good teams do. You've got to find a way to do that week in and week out and do it. Titans did that yesterday. The question now is, have they learned enough? Are they confident enough that they can make those plays again moving forward? Back to the phones now, and Brian. Brian, hello.
For the last 4 years, we haven't had a head coach that hasn't been full of malarkey. I'm telling you right now, that defensive coach, he put 2 guys on the line. He had 5 guys standing up. We were like dancing around. Something was weird. I remember I played high school ball. I was wondering, I did that, and I got called for a penalty. There was some weird schemes that guy was going down. And the offensive coach, he's the guy. I don't know, who is the offensive coach?
Terry Robisky.
Yeah, he seems to be okay. I don't know, man. I really don't know what's going on. It's such a weird team. I thought they were going to lose for sure. But I was called wrong.
Yeah, I think they called a lot of people wrong with the way they played in the 4th quarter of that game to respond. And defensively, they threw a lot of different looks at the Lions, but that's what you've got to do in this day and age in the NFL. You got to confuse these guys or do your best to get in their head. There's so much preparation. These guys like Matthew Stafford have seen it all. So you have to give them different looks. You have to blitz from different places and make them think about where they're going to go with the football. And if you can do that and you can provide some pressure to go along with it, that's when you can get a play like you saw at the end of the game there. That's a time of the game when you know the Lions are passing. They have to get down the field and get points. You know they're passing, so the Titans can go after them. And if you're the Lions, you're expecting maybe a little bit looser coverage. You're going to try and pass underneath, just dink and dunk them down the field. And the Titans said, look, we saw what happened last week in Indianapolis. We're not going to do that this week. We're not going to let them do to us what they did to the Colts. And so what did Dick LeBeau do? He kept his corners on an island. He tried to keep the wide receivers in front of him, but made them play straight up. And he went after him up front. And the Titans believe their front 4, front 7 especially, are really good football players. And they're going to go after you. They're going to pressure you as much as they possibly can, and that's what they did late there. They got to Stafford once, but more importantly, they hurt him. They forced him to get rid of the ball earlier than he wanted to in that situation. And even as he was going to some of those underneath routes, he had to get rid of it quick. He couldn't have the timing with the receiver that he wanted. You saw an incompletion on a guy who was actually open on the very first play of the drive, but Stafford just had to get it out too quick. And then on the interception, he's throwing that ball to nobody. Well, actually, he's throwing it directly to Parrish Cox. But that's what happens when you hustle and pressure a quarterback, get after him, is you get in his head, and he realizes, if I hold on to this ball, I am taking a licking. I got to get rid of it. I got to make something happen. Then they throw it too quickly. The receiver isn't in the right spot, and that's when the defense can make a play. Credit to Dick LeBeau for keeping the pedal to the metal. They played well all day against that Lions offense, and when it mattered the absolute most, they stuck with it. Too often teams pull off that pedal. They get back in a dime or a prevent defense, and you're able to move the ball at that point. The Titans knew they couldn't afford to do it. They went after Stafford, and they made the play to win the game. Credit Dick LeBeau and the Titans for that. And they're not going to get enough credit at this point. And I know it's only week 2, but the job they have done through 2 weeks has been remarkable. And everybody's going to talk about the drive, and it was awesome. You learned a lot about Mariota. You saw vintage Andre Johnson at the end. That was great. But the MVP of this team through 2 weeks is the defense as a whole for what they have done. And that should be talked about more because they have been excellent. Phone lines are open. 737-7767 is the number. We want to hear from you. A lot of callers last week disappointed with the outcome. I imagine a little bit more excitement this week after the way they came back and won in the fourth quarter. But do you believe that's a sign that this is a different football team? I believe it is. I don't know what that means in the win column at the end of the year, but I think the way they came back to win that game yesterday tells you that the makeup of this squad under Mike Mularkey, created by John Robinson, is different than the past several teams we've seen wearing the two-tone blue of the Tennessee Titans. Back to the phones now. Gordon, good evening. You're next up here on Titans Talk.
Thanks, Steve. Look, a win is a win. I'll take it any time. And certainly, instead of finding a way to lose, we found a way to win yesterday, and that's always something to celebrate. But there are a lot of problems right now. This team is averaging 16 points a game. How many wins do you think we're going to have if we can't put another 10, 15 points per game, on our, from our offense? The run game was not impressive except for DeMarco's 67-yard run. That was very impressive. But you take that away, and he gained 22 yards on 11 carries. That's 2 yards per carry. That's not impressive.
Right.
And when is somebody going to get Mariota to throw a long pass down the field that leads his receivers? I have yet to see him in 2 years, well, in 1 year and 2 games, throw a long pass that wasn't short. Given a choice, overthrow it. You're less likely to get intercepted than underthrowing it. And, but he's a smart guy. He's a good athlete. I don't understand why he keeps making that same mistake. So the team showed some strength, some character yesterday in the last quarter and the last 90 seconds. But right now, I don't know. The other thing is we played a team that beat itself. They had 19 penalties, and we still only beat them by 1 point. So I think there's a lot to be desired right now with this team, along with some positive signs.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, and you hit off the top there, Gordon, is there's no such thing as an ugly win. I said tonight on the news at 6 that it wasn't exactly a Picasso or a Van Gogh, but some people like the Andy Warhol paintings just fine and find them beautiful. And as long as you get the right result, you like what's hanging on your wall, that's good. And yesterday, what was hanging on the Titans' wall at the end of the day was a W. That's the most important thing, and I think we agree on that. Marcus Mariota has not been great at throwing the deep ball throughout his time in Tennessee. I think that he's better than what he's shown, but here's the other thing. He hasn't had the receivers even now to really just throw it up there and say, you go make a play. He doesn't have the burner. He doesn't necessarily have the guy with huge size downfield. So while a lot of that I think is on Marcus, some of that's just on the guys he's trying to throw it to in terms of they don't do it a lot, and maybe when they do it, he feels he has to be really perfect and fine with the throw because he doesn't have the same trust that some quarterbacks do that his wide receiver is just going to go make a play. In terms of the running game, it hasn't been the smash mouth we expected through 2 weeks in terms of the productivity. But as I said earlier, you're getting a lot of touches out of Murray and Henry, and some of those are in the passing game. And the ones that have come in the passing game have been incredibly effective so far this year. So that's good sign. You're making defenses think of different things, prepare for different things. That's important. I do want to see this weekend against Oakland how they do. That is a unit that has struggled to stop anybody, especially stopping the run dating back to the preseason and that game against the Titans. Can they just line up and run it at the Raiders this weekend? Can they march up and down the field and score some more points? Because at some point they're going to have to win one of those games where they score 28 or 30 points. I don't think they necessarily have to average it because of what we've seen from the defense. Again, if you're just talking defensive points allowed and you take away the 2 touchdowns that Minnesota had in week 1 that came directly off of offensive turnovers, and you take away the safety from this week, I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking 24 points in 2 games, 1 touchdown by the offense. That's pretty impressive from your defense, and that in and of itself can win you a bunch of games. But yeah, they do need to upgrade the production offensively, the points per game, a lot. They got to get more out of that running game. Although one thing I will say, you mentioned the 67-yard run. You got to count that. And I understand the point that in the other runs you didn't get a ton, but part of running the ball and sticking with running the ball is even when a team loads the box or does whatever to try to take it away, if you just keep pounding, 2 things happen. 1, you hope to wear them down, and in the second half of a tight game or a game you lead, that you can really just pound it, run the clock, and take away their will. That is a big hope for this Titans team. But the other thing is, every once in a while, even when it's nothing, 1, 2 yards, nothing again, 2 yards, even when that's the norm, every once in a while, you just bust one through there and it goes the distance, or it goes for 50 yards. And that's what happened yesterday. It wasn't a great day of just consistently good running from the Titans, but you get a huge run there. And that should have led to points. It didn't because Mariota took a terrible sack. But that play in and of itself should have led to points yesterday for the Titans. They need more of that throughout the year and to just keep going with that running game as they move forward. Let's try to sneak Chris in here before the break. Chris, thanks for calling. You're next up.
Hey, man. Just wanted to talk just nothing but good for the Titans. I just recently moved here from Oregon last summer, and so I've been following good old Marcus for the last 6 years and watched him in college, and basically I know what he can do, and it's sad listening to people here because there's such disloyal fans, or I wouldn't say disloyal, but we got a lot of naysayers, and I just want to say, man, hold on. And I prophesized at the beginning of the season 2 things. One was Derrick Henry, which happened, and I'm so glad we picked him up, which is going to make our offensive game so much better. 2 was to grab Chip Kelly so him and Mariota could be reunited. But man, I'm more than happy with what Malarkey's doing this year, and how the fresh new team's got a fresh new coach, and everybody can learn and grow together. And touching back on not watching Marcus throw long balls, it's because we're waiting that out. As soon as we have some confident receivers and get all our game locked in and tight and confident going through the game, and we're going to see some stuff that's going to be nuts. I guarantee, promise a playoff berth, at least first round this year.
Wow.
A lot of people disagree with me, but like I said, I come from Portland, Oregon. So we don't have a lot of football teams. We don't have any football teams. We got one basketball team. So our fan loyalty is very strong, and so I remain that way. And so me coming back here to this is where I grew up as a child, coming back here to quote unquote hometown. It's sad to see people not love the Titans. And where I was a diehard Trailblazer fan, I come here and, man, I got Titan fever like no other.
Yeah. Well, that's great, Chris, and thanks for calling in tonight. I think what you see is what the Titans are hoping, is that more people like yourself come to town and fall in love with this team because they know Marcus Mariota or Derrick Henry, or because they like what they're doing, and most importantly, they hope to put a winning product out there. And I think that's part of the problem here is you have a lot of people like yourself who have moved to town over the last several years as this place continues to boom and grow, that have watched this team do nothing but lose and give them heartache. And so they haven't jumped on the bandwagon quite as much as you are right now, when it's been largely good news in the offseason and the preseason, and now a big win yesterday in week 2 of the regular season. That's part of it. The other part of it is, I'm guessing when you grew up, the Titans were either fairly young in their infancy or perhaps not even here in Tennessee yet that you grew up with. That's still an issue that they're battling to this day, is you have generations who didn't grow up on the Titans. They grew up the fans of the Redskins or the Falcons or the Bengals or whoever. Another team was their NFL focus. A lot of college football focus here. The Titans are still relatively new when you think about it in the landscape of pro sports. But here's the thing. If they win, if you get more games like yesterday, comeback victories, road victories, frankly, any victory, if they can do that, the fans will come. It's been proven. When this team wins, this city will get behind them. It will be the thing to do. It will be a tough place to walk into and win again. We're a ways away from that because there's a long way to come up from where they've been. But that is the key. If it happens, people will come back. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll revisit yesterday's game. We'll go inside the locker room. Also break down that game-winning drive. Stay with us. More of your phone calls as well. We got open lines now. 737-7767 is the number. Stay tuned. More Titans talk coming back after this.